Hi, everyone. Today, I would want to teach you how to create a new variable in SPSS using an old variable or an existing variable, or in other words, how to recode an existing variable in SPSS into a different variable in SPSS. Now, there are two ways to actually do this. You can actually recode the variable by changing the original variable, or actually create a new variable in addition to the existing variable. So, for example, if we have age, and then let's assume you would want to create a new variable of age, and we would want this variable to be a categorical variable. Age here is a continuous variable. So this data you see here is actually an artificially created data. So we have the sex, the age, the BMI, and then depression. Sex and then depression, they are nominal or categorical variable. And then we have age and BMI, which is a continuous variable or quantitative variable. So now we would want to actually create a new variable for age, but this new variable, we want the new variable to be a categorical variable, which consists of individuals that are at most 45 years, in other words, 45 years or less, or greater than 45 years of age. So to do this, we are going to use the function called transform. So we are going to actually use this transform function to be able to actually transform age into a new variable that has at most 45 years or greater than 45 years of age. So if we hit on transform, we have two different sub-functions to actually choose from, which is recode into the same variable or recode into different variable. Now, in data analysis, I would always advise that you recode into a different variable, because you would always want to keep your original variable in case you would want to use it in the future. But however, for the sake of demonstration, we are actually going to do both. We are actually going to do both examples to actually demonstrate what we want to do. So for instance, first of all, we would want to code into a different variable. So to code into a different variable, we click on code into a different variable. Now, so this is the data you have, and we would want to actually recode age into a different variable. So we hit on the age and then we call it in. So now here you would have to actually tell SPSS you want to create a new variable. So what is the new variable name? Let's say we would want to have it age 65 years. So age 65. And we would want to give it, label it. So SPSS actually allow you to label it here. So we will say that individual age 65 years. So individual age 65 here. Okay. So we hit change. And now here is where we are actually going to do the recoding or create that new variable we would want to create. So we hit on recoding. Now, first of all, let's remove all this. If you have already done something, that's what you see. Okay. So now we would want to record age into at most 45 years or greater than 45 years. So if you see SPSS gives you, it says lowest variable. So we can use range. So this range here, they all have different approach of actually making use of it. So we are actually going to use these two range. So the first range is lowest through the particular value in which we would actually want to create. So remember we said 45 years or less, which is at most 45 years, right? So we hit here, and then we would want from the lowest to 45. And then we would want to code it as 1. And then we create from the value to the highest. So from what value? We would want to start from, remember we say greater than 45, which means from 46 to the highest, which we don't know, but any value at all, then you're gonna give it what? 2. So once you are done, you hit continue, and then we say, okay. So now you can see that we have a new variable, which is age 45. And then we can now, given that it's a nominal or categorical variable, we have to change the decimal to 0. And then now we can actually give the code name. And then we said 1 represents, let's say, at most. So we said less than, so less than, less or equal 45 years, right? And then we said 2, which we said greater than 45 years. So okay, so now we hit okay. So now we have been able to create actually a new variable from an existing variable, which is age, which has individuals that are less than 45 years or greater than 45 years. So now, what if we actually want to recode into the same variable? So in order to recode into the same variable, now if we go to transform again, now recoding again into the same variable means now you are going to lose the original variable. That's what it means. So we go here and then we said age. So we already have age variable here. If it's the first time you are doing, you're going to see all the variables here. So you are now going to bring in age, and then now we are going to actually recode it. Now you realize that we already did some recoding, so we are always going to have it here. So in order to do a new recoding, you always have to remove it. So now we are recoding age in the same variable, but the new variable is going to be a nominal variable, which is at most 45 years or greater than 45 years. So now we said lowest variable, lowest value through what value, which is 45. Then we are going to give it 1. And then the value through the highest value, we don't know the highest value, but we know the other value, which is any value that is greater than 45, which means starting from 46. Then we are going to give it what? 2. And then we said continue, and then we said okay. So now you can see that age here have actually changed, right? Okay, so now another thing in which, so this when you are actually making use, this the method in which you are actually making use of the other function of the transform. So now what about if we actually want to create a new variable by just changing or interchange, or by just changing the order of the original code. So for instance, this is what I mean. For instance, we have here to be we have sex, which is male and female. Male have been coded 1, female have been coded 2. What if we said that, no, we want male to be coded 0 and female to be coded 1? How do we go about that? So in order to do that, which means we are just going to change the coding, right? So again, if we go to the transform and we can recode into a different value, into a different variable. And so we are coming to recode sex, right? And then let's say we give it a name, sex new, right? So we said sex new. And then let's say this individual sex, that the label we are going to give it. Now, without labeling it here, you can still label it at the variable view of the SPSS. So, but then you can always choose to relabel it here. So individual sex at birth, right? Okay, then we say change. Now we go here. Now we notice that the old value, now this time we are not going to use range, we are just going to change. Remember the old value of sex, 1 was representing male, but we would want to change from 1 to 2. So that now, we are going to change 1 to 0. So that now instead of 1, 0 become male. And we are going to change from 2 to 1. So instead of 2 being female, now 1 become female. So to do this, again, we have to remove the previous recording we did. And we have to come here. What is the old value? The old value is 1. And 1 was representing male, so we want it to be now 0. Then we have to add. Then the old value is 2, which was female. We now want it to be what? 1. Then we add. Then we say that, okay. And then we go to, okay. So now we go to the variable view. Because it's a categorical variable, we change it to what? 0. And then now we can record here. We have 0 representing male. That's the individual is a male, and then 1 representing the individual is a female, right? And then we go to, okay. So now we go back to the data view, and then we can see. So if you look at sex, we can use this button to actually see whether they correspond. So we have female, 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 male, male. So we can see there's correspondence in the new variable we have created. But the only difference is that now in the new variable, female is 1 instead of 2 in the old variable, and male is 0 instead of 1 in the old variable. So there's how you can actually create a new variable when you have how do you call categorical variable, and then you can actually change it in different form by using the range or by just using the value function. And you can all do all these things using the transform, and you can transform it by recoding into the same variable or into a different variable. So lastly, maybe for instance, you might have a data which says that, okay, you would want to actually assess individuals that are obese, right? And so you have BMI, and then in BMI, you would actually want to create a new variable which has individuals who are obese and who are not obese, right? So for individuals who are not who are obese, you would want them to have BMI level greater than 30, and those individuals who are obese, you would want their BMI level to be less than or equals to 30, right? Who are not obese. So now to do that again, the same way, let's create it into a different variable. Now let's remove this, the old one. So we want the obese variable, and let's say we are giving it BMI obese, right? Okay. So now the individual, the question was, let's say, are you obese, right? Okay, then we actually change it. Then now in the new variable, let's remove these ones because they are going to create something new. So we said that now we can actually use, again, we can use the lowest true to the value, and then the value true to the highest to actually create, given that the BMI is a continuous variable. And we can actually use a range function, which I have actually demonstrated that in a different presentation. So let us use this 2, which is this range. So the lowest, so what is the lowest value? What is the value we are actually looking at? We said individual who are less than 30 years. So who are less than 30, who have BMI level less than 30 are obese. So we put here 30, right? And let's say we are going to give them 0. So if you have BMI level 30 or less, you are not obese, right? So we give it. And then if you have BMI greater than 30, then you are said to be obese. So we said the value true to the highest. So what value? So greater than 30 means you are going to start from 31. And then let's give it what? 1. And then we add. So we go to continue and then OK. So now you see we have successfully created. So since it's a nominal variable now or categorical variable, let's change the decimal to 0. And then now we can actually give the code name. So we said 0, not obese. And then we have 1, which is what? Obese. Okay. Then we said, okay. So now we have been able to create a new variable, and that variable name is a variable that actually put obesity, the BMI level, into 2 groups of either the individual is obese or the individual is not obese. And that's what we have. So you can see, if you want to be sure, you can see that 10, which is less than 30, which is less than 30 or which is at most 30, is not obese. 5, not obese. 33.5, which is greater than 30, is what? Obese. We have 32, which is also obese. We have 16, not obese, and then in that order. So this is how you can actually use the transform function to actually do recoding of data in SPSS. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.